Hey there, tubers. This is a video that I did not want to make, but unfortunately I am. I recently purchased a brand new Woodmaxx SB84 snowblower, and since we've had such a lackluster winter, I haven't really got to use it. So we finally got quite a bit of snow about 4 days ago, and I was super excited to get this thing fired up and see what she could do. And not long after I started blowing snow, it quit blowing. I heard a little pop and no longer came out this chute, and I thought, well, it's got a couple different shear pins in it. I thought maybe by chance I sheared a pin or something, and so I jumped out, and this auger was still spinning, but the impeller that goes right in there, which is right here, wasn't. And I've got some footage of that. I'll maybe throw that in here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Well, I just made my second pass here. I just shut you guys off and heard a bang, and it quit blowing snow, but the auger was still running. So I cleaned this out. It has broken that shaft right out of the gearbox. This is the gearbox. That shaft comes right out of there, right back here into the blower, and she is no longer attached. So that's not good. But unfortunately, that shaft broke, and it broke off fairly clean with the back of this, and that's the back of the gearbox there. Now, this was pretty dry snow. I mean, we were down in the single digits, so it wasn't wet, heavy snow. It was definitely dry, and I was going slow, so I don't know what exactly happened here. I mean, there's no markings anywhere on this or that impeller that show where anything would have gotten into it, and even if something had got into it, that's what the shear pins are for, and they didn't shear, and the shaft did. So I'm guessing it's just a weak shaft, or maybe it's just a fluke and I got a bad one. But part of the deal with Woodmaxx is there is a warranty, but all they'll do is supply you with the parts. You got to do the labor yourself, which I don't have a problem with. But when I sent them pictures and told them about it, and you can't talk to somebody in person, you got to do this all through their internet email service website. They told me that all that they were liable for is that shaft, and that's all that they were going to send me, was that shaft, meaning that I'd have to break open the gearbox here myself and replace all the parts internally to get that shaft in and out of there. Well, I guess I don't feel that that is appropriate. This thing has less than 2 hours on it, and so after going back and forth with them for 4 days, they finally agreed that they'll send me a gearbox, but made a point that they don't normally do this. And you know, if anybody questions what I'm saying, I've got the emails to back it up, and will gladly provide them to you. But unfortunately, they just were not interested in replacing that gearbox until I really pushed on them. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start tearing into this thing and show you what it takes to replace a gearbox. So one of the things for me to get this impeller out was this plate right here is a shield that goes up in this corner. There's 3 bolts here, and then there's 2 bolts from the top, and those were 16mm heads and 17mm nuts. I just took those off, got those out, and then I was able to work that impeller up this way and out, and there she sits. So I'll have to pull these bolts here to get that plate off so I can get to that shaft, get the shaft out, and then when the new gearbox shows up, that'll be ready to go. Now as for the gearbox, I'm gonna have to take this guard off. Looks like there's just 3 bolts on that, and I'll figure out what size those are and let you know. Then I'll have to take this guard off of here to get to the PTO, to take the bolts out of it so I can get the PTO shaft off. And then inside here, once I get this shield off, I'll figure out what it is to take this drive shaft here off. And then it should just be 4 bolts to pull that gearbox. But I'll get cranking on this and show you the steps along the way. See you in a minute. Okay, so I got this guard off, and then I took the guard off that goes over the slip clutch. Now I didn't have to take all 4 of these bolts out, but I did just to get the top half off. You can get in underneath here with a wrench and get to this one, and then there's another one right here. It's cold out, and I didn't want to lay down and get underneath there, so I just took those 4 out. They are a 13mm. I'll take all these out, so 13 for these and then 13 for these. So now I'll take this piece off. Then there's a pin that goes through the PTO here, keeps it on the shaft out of the gearbox. A 19mm, I'll take that nut off, and then I should just be able to push that pin out. And then over here, these are 2 of the shear bolts for the auger, and they're 10mm. I'll get those pulled out, and I'm hoping that this is just a coupler here, spline shaft, and a coupler over the top, and maybe if I just drop this down, should just slide off. That's what I'm hoping, but we'll find out here shortly. I'll get those taken off, these taken off, and we'll see what happens. All right, so I got those bolts pulled, got that shield off, pulled that pin out, and was able to get the drive line. Just slid right out, pulled it off the tractor. But this shaft goes all the way through here, so this is just coupling it to this sprocket, but the shaft of this still goes through here. So I guess I'm gonna have to pull the 4 bolts for the gearbox, pull it back, and then slide it off of this. That's the only thing I can think of. This would normally be a 2-man job, but I don't have any help today, so I'm gonna give it a shot to see if I can do this myself. The bolts for the gearbox are back in here, a 19 millimeter will take those off. Hopefully they don't spin, or I will have to wait till I get some help. So I'll see if I can get this off and be back with you. So I was able to get this out by myself. What I ended up doing is taking a long extension and a breaker bar and getting it in between these, and I was able to take the nuts off on the back side. And I did find out the heads are 18, the nuts are 19. And then this ended up being a little different. I figured this was splined. It's a keyway, key stock, same on the side of the gearbox here. So I just pulled that off, slid it that way, and was able to get it off. And it's not too heavy, so I was easily able to do it. So I think that's everything I'll need, and hopefully when they send me the new gearbox it comes almost like that, except for a nice new shaft coming out this end. And then I should be able just to pop it in. I'll have to fill it with oil and just kind of do the reverse order here. This didn't take me very long. I don't even think I've got a half hour into it. And I'm just going off the cuff here because I didn't have any directions or anything. So, but again, I'll show you the snow here. It is just nothing but fluff. So I don't think it was the snow that caused this. And I'll even look really close at this shaft. I just don't know. It doesn't look like there was a flaw in it, but I don't know. I don't think the way they talked is just they wanted just to send me that shaft. And my guess is you have to pull this whole thing apart to get to it. And why they'd want a customer doing that, I don't know. I mean, I would think if they're going to continue to warranty it even after I got into it, that'd kind of be a tough sell, because you never know. Some people aren't keen on this kind of stuff, so you might get it in there and put it back together wrong, and then there's another problem down the road. So if it was me, I wouldn't have questioned it. I'll just say, send you a new gearbox. But I had to argue with them, so we'll see when that one gets here. Hopefully it's soon. We got more snow on the way, and it takes me forever to do it with just a bucket. I got rid of my snow pusher when I got this, so. But yeah, we'll see how this goes when I get the next gearbox, and I'll talk to you then. Well, I almost forgot about this impeller. I need to pull it apart too. So it's got 4 bolts. Those nuts are 19 millimeter. Get those off. And then on this side, they're a flathead with a Allen, and it's a number 8. So I'll get those pulled off, and then I'll kind of see. I might have to pull all these bolts here. I'm not sure, but I'll get going on that and see where it takes me. Alright, so that was simple enough. This whole unit just came off, those 4 bolts. So now a number 5 Allen, we'll get those loosened up and take those out, and then I'm guessing that this inner collar here comes out. So I'll get those broken free and see what happens. So I got those out, and then now you've got 4 threaded holes that you'll just put 4 of the bolts that you took out, thread them in, and then you'll just tighten them down and work that collar off. So I'll get pushing those in and get that popped off, and then that should release that shaft and let that shaft drop out of there. Yes, indeed, that's all it took. So there's that. And then once that came out, I was just able to push that shaft right out. And there she is. Now the rust is because it's been sitting for a few days here. And then that is because it took me a minute with the machine run to figure out what had gone on. So I'm guessing that the piece on the other side that was sticking out, as this spun around, it kept hitting it. So that's where those marks came from. But I really just don't see anything that in there that looks like it was cracked or anything prior to this, but it didn't last very long. You can see it was machined down, and there is a little collar there, and it broke off pretty much right at it. Huh. Yeah, hard telling. But when we get the new one, we'll get it slapped back together. I hate to be doing this to something that doesn't even have 2 hours on it, but I guess that's the way life is sometimes. So, see you in a bit. All right, we are back. And what might have been a blink of an eye for you was about 3 weeks for me. And as you can tell, we don't have any more snow. But my gearbox finally showed up. And this is how UPS dropped it off. Of course, I don't know that it's necessarily their fault. I can't imagine somebody putting a 50-pound gearbox in a cardboard box and shipping it out, but that's what we've got here. So I'll cut this open and see if we got any damage, and hopefully it's okay, and we'll get back to putting this in. Okay, well, it's been a couple days since I opened that box up. What happened was, once I got that box opened up and started inspecting this new replacement gearbox, I noticed that this output shaft for the impeller doesn't have a keyway cut in it like my old gearbox did. Now, I'm not sure that really matters, but I wanted to try and get in touch with Woodmaxx to know for sure. Unfortunately, you can't talk to people on the phone there. Parts and service requests have to go through their email system, and they say they have 4 business days to reply. So I waited a couple days, didn't hear anything. I'm going to end up just throwing this in. I think it's going to work fine. The way this system works is this goes on, and then this wedge system, as you tighten it down, should clamp down on that shaft. Why the keyway was in this one, I'm not entirely sure, but I think this one is going to work. It'd be nice if a guy could talk with them. They gave me a phone number and an extension, but there's no option in their phone tree to use an extension in any way, and since you can't get anybody on the phone themselves, I'm just going to put it together this way and see how it works. So I'll get started here and show you how it goes. So the first thing I'm going to do is get this gearbox mounted back up in here, and I'll have to put the keyway in this shaft here and the keyway in the gearbox here. Get those together and get that all pushed back in there. And got 4 bolts that'll go back in. The nuts will go back on this side. And then once I get that mounted up, I can put the impeller back in and the drive line going down to the PTO back on. So I'll get that gearbox mounted up and be right back. So if you're doing this one man like me, the easiest way is going to be to turn this gearbox so that the tractor side of the PTO is facing down. That's the only way you got enough room and enough play in this to get these two to slide together with that coupler. So now that it's on there, I can pull this out just enough and get that to, I'll have to use both hands here, but you get the idea. I'll get that to turn and go in. Otherwise you just don't have enough room or ability to move this if it's in the position it should be in to begin with. So hopefully that makes sense, but I'll get that in, get the bolts in, and show you what's next. Alright, so that gearbox is in. That is really a two-man job. So if you got somebody to help you, I would definitely go that route. I unfortunately don't, so this was a bear for me, but I got it. So I could put the PTO driveline on, but I'm going to wait, because right now without it I can still spin stuff as I need freely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this piece back on the impeller. It goes up and underneath here, and then you've got 4 bolts here that'll go in like that. It's a 19mm on the nut, number 5 Allen wrench, and I did mention earlier, but I'll repeat it, those nuts are 19s and the bolt heads are 18s. So I'll get this mounted up and then show you how I got this out of there, and hopefully it'll go back in just as easy. Alright, so that's what that looks like installed. I did misspeak, not 5, but they're a number 8 Allen head on this side. Looked like a 5 when I first looked at it, but it's actually an 8. So my next chore will be to manhandle that thing up, and there's just enough room between the top here and this to kind of get it in there, and then hopefully I'll be able to roll this around kind of with it and get it in there and on that shaft. So I'll give it a shot and see what happens. Okay, it's back in there. It's a bit of a bear. It's a heavy, awkward piece, and you kind of have to time these tines here with the auger to get it to go in there. It either wants to go off to one side or the other. So it took a minute to figure out the exact spot to get this to go in there, but I got it in. And then it is heavy and awkward, so I had to use a prybar down here, pry up, to get it to go on that shaft. But now that it's on that shaft, I'll grab this piece here and we'll just put that on and then put the bolts in and start cinching that down. I pushed it all the way in as far as it would go, and there's still a gap back here, so I know I'm all right that way. And I guess I'll just get the bolts in, tighten it down, and see what it looks like. So I'll be back with you. Okay, we got that wedge in there. Now I had to go around it 6 or 7 times, and I just did a star-crossed pattern, just round and round, and as that wedge just worked its way in, they kept loosening up. So it took me quite a few rounds to get that in there, but it's in there nice and tight. I think that should be good. I don't have any places where it's rubbing anywhere, and it's almost completely flush here. It's just a hair off, but I think we're good that way. So the next step will be to install this plate here. Goes up in here like such. 3 bolts there, 2 bolts in the top, which are right there, and 16mm head, 17mm nut, and I'll get that thrown in and we'll go on to the next step. Alright, So that piece is in. That's what it looks like installed. So I think with that in, our next thing will be to install the drive shaft. Now, I don't think I need anything to rotate anymore freely, so I'll throw that drive line in, put the slip clutch on the gearbox end, get it tied in here, and then I'll get that gearbox filled up with oil and get these remaining guards on, and we should be good to go. So that's pretty simple. Just slide that over the splines, and you've got this pin that'll go in, line up with the groove in the shaft, and tighten that down, and that should be in. So I'll be right back. Alright, so now we're ready to fill this gearbox with some oil. It comes with this piece of tape over the top. There is a vented plug that goes in there, and that was just roaming around loosely in the box. Luckily it made it here, considering the condition the box was in. Why they didn't just throw it in, I don't know, but they didn't. So this is a number 8 Allen, and you fill this till the oil comes out of that. And if I remember right, it holds right at 1 quart. And what I use is this AMSOIL 7590 gear oil. So I'll be filling that, and then once I get that full, I'll get the caps on, and then we can start putting the remaining shields in place. So I'll be right back. Alright, so I got this one piece in here. It's just got 2 bolts, one top, one bottom. There is a spot for 4, but it only came with 2, so that's all I'm putting back in it. And then this piece here, we spin it around, we'll slide over those bolts, and then we can tighten that down. Now the only reason I took this off is it just makes it easier to get to this top one. You don't necessarily have to take this off. I just did. So I'll get that slapped on, and then we'll just have this one last guard to go over this drive line, and then we should be race ready. So I'll get this installed and be right back. Alrighty, everything's back in place where it's supposed to be. These are all 13 millimeter, and then this one has a nut on the bottom of it, so you'll have to reach up underneath here and hold it. Other than that, the rest are pre-threaded. So I think I'll clean up my tools here, and we'll go fire it up and see if it explodes. I'll give you a minute and I'll get right back to you. So she's running at full RPMs right there. I don't hear anything hitting. Sounds normal to me, so I think I'll call that good. Alright, well I shut it off here so it's a little quieter. But that is about all I can do until I put it to the real test with some snow, which unfortunately probably won't be this year. We're far enough into the winter now that if we get any snow, it won't really accumulate, and it'll probably be gone within a day. It's just that time of the year already. So this thing was a big disappointment for me. I got to use it for about an hour and a half before this broke, and then the back and forth I had to do with the company to get them to send me replacement parts took forever. And one of the main reasons that I bought this was because of all the good reviews that I've seen online. I mean, I couldn't find any bad ones. So between that and the price, I thought, yep, this is what I'm getting. And other than the fact that it's cheap. It is built in China, so it is on the cheaper side, but I don't know what is out there that really is built in America anymore. So I got it, put it together. I have a video of when it arrived. It did have some shipping damage, but it was mainly cosmetic. I'll link that above, so if somebody wants to check that out. But you know, I was really looking forward to using this, and I could have. We had quite a bit of snow 3 weeks ago, so unfortunately it didn't work out that way, and unfortunately the company was difficult to work with, and I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm just putting this video out there for what happened with me, and you can take that for what it's worth. But I have not had a good experience with Woodmaxx. So one other thing that I wanted to tell you about is they do want me to ship this gearbox back to them. They sent me a prepaid sticker to slap on the box that the new one came in, which as you could tell in that one photo, there wasn't much left of it. So I'll have to get a box myself and throw this thing in it, which means I need to drain the fluid out of this and package it up to try and keep it from destroying the box like it did coming. But one of my biggest fights with them was over actually replacing this gearbox. What they wanted to do was send me a replacement shaft. And they said that if you read their warranty, they only have to replace what is broken. And here's a diagram of that gearbox. And like I argued with them about was, you know, that's fine and dandy if you only want to replace the exact part that broke. But as you can see in this diagram, it's probably a little hard for you to see, but there's a bearing, bevel gear, bearing, and this is all one shaft. So you've got oil seals on each end, retaining clips. There's quite a bit to it. And then they've got some shims in there, and you need to get the shims right so that you get your preload on those bevel gears correct. And you know, that's a lot to expect a customer to do. And that's what I explained to them. And they kept saying, read our warranty, read our warranty, read our warranty. We only have to replace what is broken. And, you know, part of my argument was this thing had less than 2 hours on it. And why am I tearing it apart? And are you going to warranty it after I tear it apart and replace that shaft? Because they would not send me the seals, the bearings, anything else, because there's nothing wrong with those. Even though you're going to destroy the seals, taking this all apart. So that's been a lot of my frustration with these guys. I don't know why they just didn't say, here's a gearbox. Sorry about the troubles, and go on their merry way. But they didn't. I got a lot of pushback, but I gave a lot of push, so they eventually came around to agreeing with me to send the new gearbox out. Whether that was to shut me up, I don't know. But, you know, I still have quite a bit of time in pulling it apart, putting it back together. It definitely went back together slower than it came apart. But part of that is because this shaft was missing, so this gearbox came out quite a bit easier than going in. But that's been my hang up with these guys. Again, I'm not telling you to do business or not to do business with them. I'm just telling you what happened with me, and hopefully this informs you a little bit. They had a great reputation online, as far as I could find. Maybe I'm just the one in the million that had this kind of luck. So I guess be your own judge. And with that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.